Hi, thanks for being here. Listen, this talk isn't just about buying more tools, it's about giving your customers and employees time back. Today, we're going to explore an architecture that enables AI to be as flexible and scalable as possible. We're going to talk to you about why you need to think of AI as a distinct layer of your tech stack, not just an add-on. We'll discuss how AI affects your user experience and how to enable the ability to let work happen across every platform you use behind the scenes. But first, let me give you a quick example of a disjointed user experience, one that you'll recognize from your own inbox. So I'm a dad, and I just survived back to school season. Now, apparently back to school season is less about backpacks and pencils and more about filling out the same forms on every app and portal imaginable. Name, address, emergency contact, again and again and again. Got me thinking though, organizations do this to their employees and customers all the time, which is part of why we're here today. Customer experience matters, whether it's to internal or external customers. And I've spent the last decade working with some of the world's largest organizations to help them improve how they deliver service. I'm James Davies, and I'm the CEO of Kinetic Data. And I'm happy to be here today to speak with the SSON community about how we can continue prioritizing user experience in the era of AI. Over the last 10 years, I've worked across enterprise and government organizations where people use many platforms to do their jobs. During this time, I saw a common pattern problem. You see, companies I've worked with had invested millions of dollars into their digital transformation journeys. Yet employees and customers still feel like they work in silos where systems don't talk. I noticed that each core platform like CRM and ITSM and ERP, they each shipped with their own portal. Vendors would tout a single pane of glass, but in reality, this was only true if you did everything in their tool. We would watch organizations invest millions in customizations, only to then have to manage those customizations through upgrades. And at the end of the day, most of these customizations were to support a better customer experience. So we decided that there had to be a better way. And the approach was quite simple. Let's treat user experience, which is different from business to business, as its own layer. In doing this, the business can evolve their customer experience at a much faster pace and without having to start from scratch if they wanted to replace one of their core platforms. This approach also allows a truly unified user experience that the business owns and is in control of. So over the last few decades, the pendulum has swung from purpose-built apps to enterprise platform consolidation. In the early 90s, we had lots of different applications, and then we went through this digital transformation and consolidation phase. And the pendulum is now starting to swing back as companies are seeing the risk and the cost involved with going all in on a few select vendors. When they consolidated, they got one big generic tool that requires lots of customization, and they missed out on best of breed tools, ones that are purpose-built. And there's something to be learned there that I think is applicable again today. At Kinetic Data, we built an entire platform around solving this problem, a platform that gives companies the ability to leverage enterprise platforms where applicable, and best of breed, purpose-built tools when required. Our approach enables our customers to serve their customers more efficiently and deliver a top-notch service. I think that this same philosophy applies to the world of AI. I'm already hearing from CIOs that their users are being bounced from one bot to the next, and none of them giving the right answer. It's important that we don't repeat the same mistakes of merging too much capability into one tool. We want to build composable architectures, and that's true for AI as well. One thing I know for sure is that when user experience is unified for your customers, adoption goes up and change gets easier. And so all of these things got me thinking, what actually happens inside real organizations when they're thinking about adopting AI technologies? What do real leaders actually have to decide? If you think about it, every major platform now ships with its own AI, just like they did with their own portals. And that sounds convenient, but it can create real chaos down the line. So where should AI live so that the experience improves rather than gets more fragmented? As I see it, there's three different options. The first two create friction, and the third creates freedom. In path A, that's where each platform adds its own AI. In path B, you pick one vendor and you build your AI strategy around it. And then in path C, you keep AI independent so that it can learn from the whole enterprise and act anywhere. So let's take a quick look at A and B, and then we'll dive in and build out C together. So in path A, every department buys or enables its own AI within its own tool sets. And with this option, you get local wins, but you also get fragmented experiences for your customers. Now, I'm not saying that this is always a bad thing. AI use cases within these platforms can be very helpful for power users, people working cases or responding to emails. But what breaks down when your customers interact with multiple areas of your organization. You'll have people bouncing between bots that ask HR AI and ask IT AI. Each of these tools has limited context to answer questions. It's typically only scoped to the data that exists in that one tool. What many organizations choose to do then is duplicate data between enterprise platforms, which creates an even bigger mess. So some leaders are starting to swing the other way. That's path B. So in this path, you choose from one platform and make its AI strategy your AI strategy. Now, we found that this is fast at first. You've only got one vendor to deal with after all, but you also inherit one world view, one roadmap, and ultimately you're locked in. How I've seen this play out is an organization takes one of their core platforms like IT or CRM, and then uses the bolted on AI capabilities as its customer-facing interaction layer. Now, this path comes with extremely high risk because that platform becomes nearly impossible to replace, even if there's better or cheaper alternatives on the market. You see, it's not that easy to change the enterprise tools that are also performing the role of customer concierge. You'll have to retrain your entire customer population. And that becomes extremely costly and is riddled with risk. So, what if there was a better architecture that meets you in the middle of both of these options? There's a better path that protects choice and improves experience, and that's what we really want to dive into today. Here, AI is its own layer. It's not inside one product. You get the best of both worlds and the best of breed. It learns from your enterprise data and acts anywhere through orchestration. And that keeps the experience consistent for people and keeps you free to change platforms. So let's build this out a little bit in plain English. Think about how Amazon works. You don't get a different website or bot because you're buying shoes versus a table saw. It's one front door, one account, one cart, one order status, one page. And behind that simple experience, a lot happens automatically. The experience layer is the storefront, the account page, and the status page, the single place where people go. The agility layer is the order pipeline. It's what's coordinating everything after you click Buy It Now. It's what connects to your systems of record. Then there's a core systems layer, which is the source of truth for order data, for payments, for security, fraud checks, uptimes, audits. And then finally, you've got your AI layer, and that's the intelligence that looks across the whole catalog and operation, recommending, predicting, routing. It's not a tiny bot tied to one department. And here's how this looks in a modern non-Amazon enterprise. Let's walk through each part quickly using the same mental model. So for this experience layer, think about it as your front door, a place where customers go to get anything they need to manage their relationship with you. Place orders, view billing, ask for support, find information, things that typically happen across different systems in an organization. This is also a place where service owners can manage their offers with autonomy. They don't need to wait on IT if they need to add a field to their HR onboarding form or update the approval process to comply with a new finance policy. Users don't have to go hunting for the right portal and wind up sending an email. There's no UI every time one of your enterprise platforms changes. This consistency is what drives adoption. To make this happen, though, underneath, we need a conductor. And that's where this agility layer comes in. It serves to orchestrate work regardless of what tools it's using to make the process happen. It routes tasks, routes approvals, handles exceptions, and provides outcomes. This is where your business logic is. It's where the special sauce that makes your company great lives, and no two companies have the same processes. This layer needs to be flexible, scalable, and independent. And it's what allows you to swap out a tool and not break the experience. This is an abstraction layer. And now what I want to do is talk about what supports these two layers above, the experience layer and the agility layer. That's your core platform layer. Activity from the experience and the agility layer lands here in the core systems layer. This is your source of truth. This is where your CRM and your ITSM and your ERP and other core systems live. These are solid engines, and they're trusted for running your business. There are some of the most expensive tools in your stack, though. And so the main point here is that keeping them in the background, abstracted away, gives you the freedom to change them over time. These foundational systems give you two main outputs: clear metrics for people and clean inputs for AI. And now AI can finally see the whole. Building your AI strategy to complement the entirety of your business is how we maximize its value. The idea is that the AI layer can see the data within your core systems, make decisions for your agility layer, and be exposed as a bot in the experience layer. Vendor native AI is excellent for local features inside of a product, but to achieve the full benefit that AI can drive for your business while remaining in control of your destiny, AI needs to stand on its own. So why don't we take a couple minutes to make this real for your organization? Sometimes talks like this are great and you'll walk away and say, wow, what a great topic, but where do I start? So in the spirit of back to school, we put together some homework for you. We wanted each of you to have an actionable next step. This exercise will bring a different lens, an experience lens, to how you think about your own workflows. So go ahead and grab the canvas via the QR code on the screen, and I'll walk you through how to fill this thing out. Let's start by writing down one workflow that's relevant to your business. Maybe you're in HR and that's employee onboarding or supplier updates or ordering of some type of a service. So jot that down. Next, we want to think through what is the trigger for this process. So again, for employee onboarding, that might be an application was approved in the HRIS system. And once that happens, this process needs to happen. So once you have that nailed down, then think about what done looks like. So for employee onboarding, that might be the employee shows up on the first day and they have access to all the systems they need. Their business card and company swag are on their desk, and training is already queued up in the LMS. Once you have that, then go ahead and list the people involved and what a unified experience might let them do. So once you've identified your use case and the people and the start and end events, now we get to map out the middle steps. And this doesn't have to represent the current state. Think about this as the ideal path. List out each of the steps or tasks along the workflow without getting too bogged down in the details. And since we're crafting an ideal experience, you'll want to identify what existing data you might already have to reference, so that we can avoid copying and pasting things or duplicating data in multiple systems. Then try to nail down what new data you might need from that step. So what new data is this step going to produce, and what platforms will be used during this step? So feel free to list more than one, and also jot down who the primary owner of that step. And then finally, for the fun part, let's look across your steps and circle any of the lines where both of the following questions are yes. Does this step touch two or more platforms? And will the new data created be used by another platform later? You see, that's where you need orchestration. That's where having a user experience that's decoupled from these core systems really shines. It can pull data from anywhere through the agility layer and orchestrate across your stack. By now, your spreadsheet probably has a bunch of circles on it. And so to map how AI can help you scale, go ahead and star one of your more complex steps and think about how AI can help that step become more efficient. What we typically find is that in order for AI to be able to perform that step, it likely has to access and interact with data across multiple platforms. And that's why treating AI as a layer of its own makes so much sense. So for this, we like to use one of four common ways that AI can show up. We call them the AI plays. One of the AI plays is choose for me or recommend. That's where it's suggesting the best option or bundle or next step. Another play might be spotting issues or detecting something, so flagging duplicates, finding missing information, or risk. Another one is giving an ETA or forecasting. So could it predict a date or a delay or how much effort it might take? And then finally, sending it to the right place or classifying and routing. It will recognize what it is and then auto-route it. Those plays can be applied to your steps And leveraging your AI layer and your agility layer together can help you execute and automate these tasks. So here's how we typically recommend moving forward without big bang risk. Our team approaches pilots like this, so I'll share this with you. Within 90 days, you can take the following steps. We'd recommend starting by identifying processes that have lots of volume, things that happen frequently, and that are done manually today. Then narrow it down to 2 or 3 of them and map out what the ideal experiences would be for the people that are involved in that step. Those people could be customers, people on your team, or other departments within the organization. And then identify where AI could help with that step. Next, you'll want to stand up an experience and agility layer to help facilitate this process. And you can skip this step if you already have one. And then finally, build out the process to reflect the ideal experience within your agility layer, plugging into your AI tools and core systems where applicable. So that about wraps it up, guys. I hope you found this presentation interesting. It's a different way of looking at the world. It's a way of optimizing the experience for your customers. And this approach lets you take full advantage of technology without outside vendors owning your roadmap. If you'd like to learn more about this approach, we'd love to get in touch. Bring us a flow. In 60 minutes, we'll help you map the ideal experience that leverages the investments you've already made. We're not here for ripping and replacing existing investments. With that, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, James. That was fantastic. What a fantastic introduction. I always am very, very interested in that debate between platform and point-based solutions and how you integrate everything. And I know it is a hot topic for a lot of our members at the moment. So lovely to see lots of hands clapping. James, if you want to, put your video back on, we can take some questions. Let me have a look. I am also just going to run our polls now. So if I pop those polls up, we can go and have a look. So here I'm going to launch that poll and give you guys an audience 30 seconds, a minute to answer those. What is the biggest concern when choosing AI platforms or tools? And the other one is here. Which layer of your tech stack is currently the biggest blocker to scaling AI effectively? So let me leave that open for a sec and I will let you guys answer it.
There we go.
There we go. It took us a while to get from backstage to front stage, but we're here. Brilliant. So here I'm seeing in the answers, I'm going to give the audience 10 more seconds to get their answers in. So please do let us know what you feel is the biggest concern when choosing AI platforms or tools, and also which layer of your tech stack is currently the biggest blocker to scaling AI effectively. And let's go straight into our questions, of course. So first question I'm going to take is from Dominic, and Dominic's asking, how would you assess whether your current infrastructure is flexible enough to support scalable AI solutions?
That's a great question. So I typically start with, we always start at Kinetic, at least with the user experience. So if your tech stack is currently very fragmented, we recommend bringing in and decoupling your user experience, especially for your customers. I'm not talking about for your power users, from your backend systems. And then there's plenty of tools, Kinetic is one of them, that can integrate with existing systems. So with Kinetic, for instance, if those applications have REST APIs or they're accessible via the database, or even with an old school Java API, we've interacted with mainframes before, there's typically a way to get at that data. Many times we find that legacy platforms, even old ones, they are engines that just do their job well, and they're very risky to replace. And so what we advise some organizations to do, or many times organizations actually just do this, is if they want to modernize their user experience, they can actually just front end that application with a layer, a user experience layer that's interacting with that data. And what we found is that takes a lot of the pressure and the risk off the organization, because then they can start to decompose that legacy system if they want to modernize it over time. So I think in general, most organizations are ready. It's really just figuring out what high volume process you'd like to start with, or maybe it's a less risky process. But we always advise organizations to start with a process that's going to have meaningful impact, where the user experience is disjointed today. The current tech stack, it's really, I would say, irrelevant to the question if you buy into this approach where we're not going to consolidate everything into one system, but we want to have a composable architecture, and this user experience layer can support it. So I
Yeah.
guess at the end of the day, to really answer the question, at our company at least, we try to meet organizations where they're at without having them to have to rip and replace their existing tech investments.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think when it comes to customer or supplier facing processes, people are very hesitant to change anything. It's always better the devil you know.
Right.
But of
These things
course,
become like cement, and like many times there's better, cheaper alternatives out on the market, especially with this era of AI. I mean, every day there's new, better, faster apps that are coming to market. And if you're locked in with a specific vendor, you're kind of tied to their roadmap and their pricing, et cetera. So this decoupling the experiences, which is really what Kinetic does. Kinetic isn't, I wouldn't say an AI play. We believe that AI should be treated as its own layer, just like the experience. And so that's to me is like the first step. If you can get your customers into this separate layer and have this layer of abstraction between your core systems, it gives you much more freedom and flexibility. It makes it easier to change them.
yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I'll just highlight while you were doing your presentation, James, we did post in the chat a link to the worksheet that you shared. So, people, that's a super practical way of assessing your readiness for AI, where you should start, and so on. So please do click on that. And in the resource center at the bottom, there's also the option to get the slides, to get some more information about Kinetic. And actually, that brings me on well to our next question that's come through. We've had a question. You mentioned a little bit of this already, but if we start small, what's the first use case you'd pick and why?
Sure. Um, we've always found that for whatever reason, HR onboarding and provisioning of users is one of the most difficult processes in an organization. And I think in reality, that's because every single business is different. You use different tools, you have different processes, different compliance frameworks to comply with. And so there is no out of the box, toggle a couple of switches and your HR onboarding is just going to work. And so that's always a good one to start with. And what we find is, again, we specialize in this in focusing on the experience. But what we find is that many organizations, they have manual steps where they're filling out a PDF and emailing it around for signatures and stuff like that as part of that process. And just getting that digitized into a clean experience that people actually want to use. And then even if that step's not doing an integration, but just sends an email, now at least you know how much time that's taking to get done, how frequent that is, and then that it gives you a gauge on what processes are most ripe or you get the biggest ROI out of. So HR onboarding is the one that sticks out. It comes up pretty much in every single one of our customers. But at the end of the day, I mean, what we typically do is we will survey a services organization and say, what are your intake processes or what are your main processes? And a lot of times those are done via email or filling out a Microsoft Power Form or a Google form over here. It's like consolidate those into one spot. And even if you don't build the integrations day one, you're at least starting to understand the volume of how often is this happening and how long is it taking and how big of a problem it is. And that allows you to then sequence which workflows to start with.
Understood. Um, I'm just ended our poll and I'm just sharing with our audience just to have a look, what is your biggest concern when choosing AI platforms or tools? Integration complexity with existing systems has come up, 49% of respondents saying that. And then after that, data governance and access control. So you've spoken about integration complexity. Any advice on data governance and access control that you would give to your customers?
Specifically as it relates to AI, I'm a big proponent of running these AI models within your own network and having your security teams kind of manage them. So that's something that Kinetic enables you to do. We can run our platform in the cloud or on premise, and we're seeing this big. By on premise, I mean running it in your own AWS or Azure, wherever you host your workloads. We're seeing a big push away from SaaS, given the cost and the spend, and people questioning that and just bringing applications back. And so, from a security and compliance perspective, I think that takes a lot of risk out rather than just trusting a vendor is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, I guess I don't have too much as it relates to AI because we're not ourselves an AI tool, but running them in your own environment, I think, is a smart option.
Yeah, 100%. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I know a lot of the leading shared services are doing that method. Another question that's come through, I think we've got time for one more before I let you go, is on
Sure.
what are some effective strategies for coordinating AI-driven work across tools instead of building it all within one system?
Sure. Yeah. Again, like I think that having this agility or orchestration layer that can be accessed via the experience layer. So that would be to facilitate things like chatbots, where this orchestration layer can say, "Hey, this is a question about X. Let's now route it to this model behind the scenes," is a really good option. And then also within your processes, being able to call out to different agents to help you make decisions. So like one thing that comes across quite a bit is a lot of organizations have to have approval processes. And that winds up being a really big hang up, where you have to have someone approve something in order to get the next, to get that whatever it is fulfilled. And so what we're starting to see is, currently human in the loop approvers. But as you accumulate data, for instance, given these inputs, maybe it's like a request to purchase something. Given the inputs, which might be dollar amount and department in which they are, 98% of the time, the human approves it. So we can use that data to then train an AI model to have effectively an approval agent. And if that approval agent spits back and says, "Hey, this is approved 98% of the time with 98% confidence, auto approve it. If not, route it and put a human in the loop." I think that like those are practical ways to start bringing AI in to automate tasks and increase and improve fulfillment times, but then also have the ability to have a human in the loop.
Yeah, I think that is a very optimistic and positive note to end on. So yeah, not all of our jobs will be taken over by AI. Always have a human in the loop. But yeah, thank you. That was a really, really interesting presentation, James. And I'm always keen to learn more about this debate between kind of the end-to-end platforms and the point solutions and how you integrate and orchestrate the different layers. And you put that great worksheet as well as the slides, which are available in the resource center. So please do listen again to our audience, share with your colleagues, and hopefully continue your learning on this topic. We will take a short break now, 15 minutes, and then we will be back for our final panel discussion of the day. And that is going to be around the topic of, find my script, paving the way for organizational change, empowering employees with tech skills for an AI-enabled workforce. And we're going to be joined by AI and shared services leaders from Dentsu, from Jacobs, and from Footlocker. So we look forward to seeing you there in just 15 minutes time. Thank you once again.
Take care.